Hey kids, it's Mr. Fly here. Welcome to a beautifully sunny Great Bissenden, where today I'm on another classic bike review, the occasional series here on the channel where I take an interesting bike, or a bike that I think is interesting for the last 20 years, take it for a spin and see if it still holds its own today. Today I'm riding a motorcycle that I've wanted to ride for, well, 20 years. This is the motorcycle that got me into motorcycling. It's the Triumph Sprint ST. I'll tell you all about it after the openers. Alright, the Triumph Sprint ST then. A proper old school sports tourer with the emphasis on the sports. This is a bike that when I first saw it I absolutely fell in love with it. And I thought, and that was before I was a motorcyclist, and I thought, I've got to get myself into biking. I'll tell you more about that story at the end of the video if you're interested. But for the time being, let's have a look at the Triumph Sprint ST 1050. This is a 2015 example in a beautiful blue. Let me show you around the bike. Right, let's take a look over this beautiful motorcycle then. And first things first, of course, it's not a 2015 model, this one. It's a 2005 model, so let's get that straight. This one, believe it or not, 17 years old, and just look at it. It looks absolutely beautiful. Check out the colour on this. I love this blue and white. I love the white wheels. I also did a red one with the white wheels, which looks stunning. There's all sorts of little features on here I like. First of all, I do love the shape of the front of this. I think they've done a really top job on the fairing on the ST. Everything about this bike is done in threes, so you've got these three lights on the front to, you know, kind of echo the triple nature of the bike. I love this little silvery bar they've got in here in the fairing as well. Massive great fairing, engine all covered up so nice and easy to clean. And once again, lovely white wheels on this example. Single-sided swing arm just to show off that lovely wheel. And one of the best features for me, excuse the trade plate, is this incredible three outlet exhaust that goes up and under the seat, which, you know, at the time that this was made, this is quite a thing. There are a few bikes that had under seat exhaust, but I think the triple stack looks absolutely amazing like that. Beautiful comfortable seat, more of which later, and yeah, just a lovely looking bike. I think it's got a few practical features as well. This one's got some heated grips down here. That's the heated grip button. It's got a little cubby hole over here which you can open. I've been keeping all my vloggy stuff in there. I love the instrument gauges as well. We'll talk more about them. Once again, you've got everything in threes there, kind of echoing that triple motor. And yeah, I just think they've done a lovely job on the styling. I've always thought it was a beautiful bike, and in the sunshine it looks absolutely cracking, doesn't it? So yeah, one of the best design bikes I think Triumph have ever come up with. Obviously it's a personal thing, but I absolutely love the looks of this. So welcome back aboard the bike then. So much for what she looks like. How does she ride? Well, let's take her on my usual little loop, my Great Bissenden spin, just to try her out. A few twisty roads, a few bumpy ones, some a bit faster. See how she goes. Now, you know when you jump on a motorcycle, you instantly get a feel, don't you, for what the thing's like. Well, certainly once you've ridden a few you do, and whether you're going to like the bike or not. And I can tell you instantly, with only having ridden this for the last 10 minutes, I already love this motorcycle. It is definitely as good as I'd hoped. In fact, maybe even better. This one, as I said, 17-year-old example, so hardly a spring chicken. But it rides, oh, bumpy, absolutely beautifully. The things that immediately leap out at me are, first of all, the sound of this triple engine out of those three pipes. It sounds absolutely awesome. When you wind her up, she screams like a banshee. The lightness of it, it feels really light and flickable. And the comfort. We'll cover all those things in more detail as the review goes on. So the Sprint ST then, in this form, was built and sold by Triumph from 2005, which this is a 2005 model. I think I might have said 2015 just now. This is a 2005 until 2011, so it had a fairly short run, and then they brought out, I think sometime during that period, the Sprint GT, which was a slightly more lazy version of the bike, a more touring focused bike, less emphasis on the sport, and that bike didn't get such critical acclaim as this one did. The GT had a slightly lazier handling, slightly longer geometry. The one you want is definitely this, the ST. This is the bike that arguably knocked the Honda VFR 800 off of its sports touring perch as the best sports tourer you could buy at the time. This quickly got fans and plaudits, myself included, even though I wasn't a rider at that time, as I say, because it had an awful lot going for it. So let's talk about how she how she rides there. First off, comfort, I've already said very, very comfortable. It feels physically a large motorcycle. So if you're a bigger chap, you'll be absolutely fine on this. I'm a medium-sized fella at 5'8", and I'm finding this very roomy. And for a bike that looks a bit like a sports bike, it's very comfortable. You're not really in a sports bike crouch. You're more sitting upright. It's a sporty upright, but it is comfortable. The pegs, relatively high, tucked up. Your knees at a bit of an acute angle. It's a comfy place to be. The clip-on handlebars are quite high, quite nice and wide as well. It's a really nice place to be, and the seat itself is amply cushioned. It feels really nice and comfy underneath your bum cheeks. Weather protection on the bike is really good. I mean, it's got this massive fairing on here, which I love the looks of. And underneath this screen, which is an aftermarket one in this case, I'm nice and protected from the wind as well. So again, they've thought this is what sports tours are all about. You could ride this for hours on end and you'd have no worries of keeping the worst of the weather off you. Even if you had to do long motorway blacks, you could do it on here, no problem. Let's just try the brakes. Now this car's pulled out in front of me, nothing behind. Front brake, nice and progressive, works really well. Let's try the rear. Okay, rear, standard rear motorcycle brake, nothing special about that, but it's okay for steadying you in the corners, that sort of caper. But yeah, the front brake, not grabby, really good. I suppose the only thing I don't like from a riding point of view, if I'm clutching at straws, the mirrors are a little bit wobbly. If you look at that right hand one, you see how that's wobbling around. So that's a bit annoying, but I'm going to let it off that because everything else about the bike I absolutely love. Right, let's just slow down, got a speed camera coming here. Just going to turn up here down one of my bumpy roads just to see what she feels like from a suspension point of view. Gearbox on here is lovely as well. I haven't had any forced neutrals or difficulty finding neutral. This is a really bumpy, horrible road here. And normally on a sports bike my fillings would be falling out, but this suspension is lovely and soft. And I'll tell you what, the handling feels so much lighter than I thought it was going to. Yeah, suspension is on the plush side, nice and soft. And for a bike that's physically big, it feels really light. Also, for a bike that's so old, 17 years, I know in some people's minds that's not a classic. My definition of classic is a bike that was around before I passed my test. I passed my test in 2012 and got into biking second time round then, really. So my definition of classic is anything that was around before I could ride it, really. So this definitely falls into my definition. Right, let's nip down this little road here. This is short-lived but a nice handling little road down here. Is she going to let me go? Yeah. Right. Listen to that triple engine. Through those three pipes underneath the seat, she sounds epic. And it is a fantastic engine, this. It's the same engine as I had in my old 1050 Sport. It also lived in the Speed Twin for a while. And it's bulletproof, this engine. You'll get 200,000 miles out of one of these. This particular bike's only done 18,600. So loads more life left in this engine. Lovely bit of pops and crackles out the back. Sounds epic. Right, let's wander up a bit here. Yes, the emphasis very much. Just move that camera on the sports side of sports touring on the ST. These sweepy bends, really lovely. You just plant her in a position you like and round you go. What a lovely thing. Alright, whilst I enjoy riding her some more, let me talk you through the specs on the bike. Let's do the numbers. All right, let's talk specs on this bike then, shall we? We'll quickly whiz through the numbers that I've written down just to get those out of the way. So first off then, the engine on here, this amazing 1050cc inline triple, same as the Tiger 1050, which became the 1050 Sport, and also the Speed Triple as well. A bulletproof engine, goes for miles and miles, sounds great, puts out 123 brake horsepower, 75 foot-pounds of torque, and is a well-proven unit. Absolutely love it. Brakes on the front here, we've got a big old twin discs on the front, 320mm discs on the front, great stopping power. And on the back we've got a single, I think that's a 255mm disc, so nothing particularly special about that, the usual stuff. Seat height on here, nice and low actually, well medium I suppose, 815mm. I can get my feet on the deck, no problems at all. Weight of the bike 210 kilograms dry, so medium-ish sort of weight, and that tank looks absolutely massive, but actually it only holds 20 litres, which I suppose is all right, good for a range of about 190 miles. Electronics on here, nothing much to talk about actually, no ABS or anything like that. This was before that was a thing. Well, it wasn't. It was a thing. I think you can get it as an option on the bike, but this one isn't fitted with it. No riding modes or anything like that. Nice, simple, pure motorcycling as far as I'm concerned. This one, if you want to buy this bike now, they make great second-hand buys. This one is available at Superbike Factory, of which more later, for £3,087. I mean, that is an awful lot of motorcycle for just a smidgen over £3 isn't it? What an absolute winner. Alrighty, I think that's about it for the spec then. Let's get back on, ride some more. Right, welcome back aboard the Tramp Sprint ST 2005, a bike that you've gathered I'm absolutely loving. I mentioned this was the bike that got me into motorcycling, or back into motorcycling after a long break. I started riding bikes when I was, like most people, fizzies when I was a teenager. And then I wasn't allowed a bike, my wife wouldn't, or girlfriend wouldn't let me have a bike, and then my wife wouldn't. So I only got my licence in 2012. And the reason why I did that was because I'd been to a campsite, believe it or not, in Annecy in France with my kids camping one year. I think it's actually probably 2010, 2011, something like that. And we were camping next to a motorhome, hello sir, which was being driven by two ladies, and then they were accompanied by two guys on motorcycles, one on a Hayabusa, one on a brand new bright red Tramp Sprint ST. I got chatting to those guys over the week we were there, and I just fell in love with that ST. So I got to talk to them about what was involved in getting your bike licence, how long it would take me to be experienced enough to ride something like the ST, and they gave me great advice. I've no idea who they were, but if you're watching and you remember that, you guys got me into motorcycling and you literally changed my life. Look how I'm doing this now for a living. Unbelievable. Anyway, it was the Sprint ST that piqued my interest and made me want to get my licence. It was a beautiful example that guy had. It was the bright red one, it had white wheels similar to this, and it was brand new. It was the first ride he'd had on it. He was taking it through the Alps while his missus and her pal were driving the motorhome that they were kipping in of an evening. What a fantastic setup I thought that was, and I still think it is. Anyway, that's how come this bike got me into motorcycling. Loving this engine. The 1050 triple never sounded like that on my Tiger Sport that I had, or Tiger 1050 I should say. What a hoot. What about the stuff you're looking at on the bike? Well, I have to say I really like this dash. It's one of the things that attracted me to the Sprint when I first saw the bike. I love the 3 dials. Everything about this bike is sort of done in 3. So the exhaust under the seat, the triple gauges, the 3 little idiot lights down here. Really nice little design touches like that. Of course, no TFTs 17 years ago. Rev counter on the left. Sorry, speedo on the left, rev counter in the middle. And then some LCD bits and pieces, fuel gauge, clock, that sort of thing on the right. Looks great to me. Really like the dash on here. Switch gear, nice and simple as well. No riding modes, no electronics to speak of. Nice and simple. Really like the dash on this bike, if that's the right word. Look at these leaves here. I'm recording this in early October. The leaves are just starting to turn. Lovely light today. Beautiful time of year. I know you're not watching this till sometime later, but such is the vagaries of YouTubery. Alright, so that's my first ride. It only took me, what, 17, 18 years to ride the ST, the bike that got me into biking. But I absolutely love it. They say don't meet your heroes, don't they? Well, I've met this one, and it has more than lived up to my expectations. It's a beautiful bike, I love it. Got to say huge thank you to the guys at Superbike Factory for making this bike available to me to ride. This particular bike at the moment is for sale at Superbike Factory at a smidge over £3 grand. What an absolute bargain. As I say, I'll put a link below in the description to Superbike Factory. Go and check out their website, it's absolutely amazing. They have usually over 2,000 motorcycles in stock at any one time. So that means any bike you can think of from the last 20 years, if you stick that model in their website, the chances are they've got a few of them for sale. When I looked, they had about 6 of these for sale, for example, of different mileages and prices. So well worth checking them out if you fancy a bit of a classic yourself. Not just classics either, they sell bikes obviously up to and including brand new motorcycles. So thanks to those guys for sponsoring the channel, and thanks for the loan of this bike. I'm going to continue enjoying it through the back lanes here, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon. If you've not been to my channel before, do consider hitting that subscribe button. I don't just do reviews here on the Missenden Flyer. I do bits and pieces about looking after your bike. I do trips and tours at home and abroad. Basically anything and everything about motorcycles, I'll try and cover it here on the Missenden Flyer. Hope you enjoyed that. Look forward to speaking to you next time. Until then, this has been the Missenden Flyer. Cheerio.